Thank you. Wow, what a crowd. Y'all look good, do you know that? Thank you so much for coming, for showing up tonight. This is like a full room, and it never ceases to amaze me how alone so many of us felt growing up, and how you come to a place like this and it's like, oh, there's resources, there's community, there's people like me, and it's just so inspiring. It's like, I don't know, like I feel humbled to be on the stage.
And you get to find your people, and then suddenly you're wearing matching polos.
Here we are. We're super excited for tonight. As some of you know, this box was out, and yes, show the box. Very nice. That's been out in the lobby all day, and people have been submitting questions. And so Liz Macdonald is here. Everyone knows Liz, right? She's, woo! Let's hear it for Liz. So a little bit of backstory, if you weren't quite aware, Ben and I started Questions from the Closet about 4 or 5 years ago.
5 years ago, March 2020. It was a good time to do something in your house.
Good time to start something. Gave us a little summer project. But last year we were talking and we kind of expanded, and Questions from the Closet became all out in the open. With that, 4 new co-hosts came on, and Liz is one of those. So she does the All Together episode with Michael Soto once a month, and we are so blessed to have you, and thanks for being here tonight. Along with that, just like a couple announcements, the ward business. Sorry.
Should we sustain Liz as a new host?
I totally do. So we are officially filed as a 501c3. We're a nonprofit organization, which is super exciting. And honestly, I filled out the paperwork the first time and did it wrong. And an accountant reached out. You tell the story.
Okay, whenever we are really bad at something and need someone to help, someone's like, can I help you with something? I'm like, yes. So an accountant reached out, has been doing all the paperwork for us.
And so he got it fixed, so we are official now. Along with that, that means, there's a lot of expensive. We just really want this to grow and be something that can be kind of like self-perpetuating. And it's not something that anyone makes money off of, but we just have a couple of things we want to do next year. And so if you'd like to support, we have some merch. It's there in the back, and it's pretty cute. We had the merch last year. We had some pins, and they sold out in 30 seconds. And so I ordered a lot more pins this year. And then on our website, if you'd like to make a bigger donation with a tax receipt, you can go to alloutintheopen.org, and there's a donation tab set up. And somebody also had to help me do that, but it is working. And thank you for our volunteers. And then should we talk about the events? Yeah. Okay, go for it.
Okay, we have realized the importance of these kinds of in-person events. Charlie hosted an in-person event last summer, and it was awesome. Multiple people found their future spouses there randomly.
That wasn't the point, but I guess it was a happy coincidence.
And everyone felt the spirit. It was great. And so we're
Sounds
planning
like some
on,
people felt a little more than this.
So we're going to start doing quarterly all-out in the open events. Charlie. We're going to do
That's not what I meant.
We're doing quarterly all-out in the open events. And our first one will be September 13th, which is a Saturday. It'll be somewhere here in Utah County. It'll be basically a gathering format where we'll talk about the scriptures. There'll be games. So it'll be we'll have a discussion and then time to mingle and make friends.
Yeah, and I mean, as amazing it is to be in a room like this, it can be isolating sometimes. And we had this idea, and we're like, we got to do it. I think one of the kind of holes right now in the community is spaces that really hit both sides, right? That affirm faith and affirm identity. And we have that here, and we're hoping to create that more and more through the coming months. And we're going to try to do these quarterly. But mark your calendar, September 13th will be the first one. Okay, I think we're ready to go. Do you have anything you want to say? All right. Okay. Passing the mic.
All right. Oh, sorry, I gotta have my glasses.
And remember to have your mic up like you're
Yep. Okay. What does it mean to be an ally? How can I support my LGBTQ friends at church?
Okay, I'll go first because I have a mic with me. I think this is a great question. What does it mean to be an ally is such an important question. And I think an ally does 2 important things. Allies, first, they learn. So they can do that by talking to their LGBTQ friends, listening to podcasts, reading, just really gaining information and proximity to the space, and then sharing what they learn. I think that's what a good ally does. And being a good ally at church is just talking about us. Like letting people know that like we're there, we're in the room. And I think it's wonderful to have firesides that are LGBTQ themed or LGBTQ themed Fifth Sunday lessons. I think that's great. But if we're giving a talk on faith, we can share a story of faith about a gay person. Or we can talk about prayer and share a story from a trans person about prayer. And I think if we can just talk about LGBTQ people in natural, normal, organic, and positive ways at church, that's one of the best ways that we can be good allies.
Yeah, kind of jumping off that a little bit, I don't think this has to be like, oh, I'm going to insert allyship here, but as it comes up organically, just to show, push against this narrative that like, being an LGBTQ person and being a child of God or a person of faith are at odds with each other. There are people in, like, how many people in every ward are LGBTQ, whether you know it or not. Like we're part of these conversations, just kind of showing that is the actual true narrative instead of this us versus them we've been living in for a long time. And when I think of allyship and how people have been allies to me personally, kind of like through a spiritual context, I just always think about baptismal covenants. Mourn with those that mourn, comfort those who stand in need of comfort, and stand as a witness of Christ, and like stand as a witness of God and God's people, the people who like we are made in God's image. And so as people learn and research and understand what the pain points are, even just being educated on that, I think God is really aware of his LGBTQ children in this really underserved community. And it's just like waiting to give revelation and answers out. But if you can get yourself to a level where you understand enough to where you can receive the revelation, then you'll know what to do, and then you can be led by the Spirit. And what a beautiful pairing of those, again, that space where it comes together, like faith and LGBTQ inclusion becomes the same thing instead of separate.
Just give 2 mics to Liz.
Okay. What do you do when a leader contradicts revelation you personally received, particularly if they're a bishop or stake president? How do you stop from second guessing yourself? That's a good question.
Charlie?
Actually, I'll just kind of expand on my last answer because I think they kind of flow together. One of my favorite quotes from our current prophet, President Russell M. Nelson, is that good revelation comes from good information. And so I think that education piece is really important. It's hard to get answers, or like right answers about something you don't know anything about. And this also comes up against this wall of like agency, right? You can never force someone to understand or study, and you can't like there's some people in my life that I would be like, I just wish I could make you read my book, but I can't, And so you kind of have to be realistic about what to expect there. But to this person, I would just make invitations to these local leaders to get to know them better. Share like appropriate, like easy on-ramp resources, and just help these leaders get to know the space more. And then I really do believe that God is at the helm here and can guide us, but we have to have that bedrock of information first.
Back in the early days of the church, Parley P. Pratt wrote this pamphlet, like a missionary tract, and he talked about going to the fount of knowledge. And he said that the farther you get down a stream, like the muddier the waters get, so you want to go to the source of that knowledge. And so if we can connect with God, the source of all knowledge, like that's where we're going to get the purest revelation. And so, it says in Doctrine and Covenants, section 1, that God does speak to us through his leaders. And that when he speaks to us through his leaders, it's as if he's speaking to us. And so he can do that. But he also speaks to us directly. And so if a leader says something that doesn't feel right to us, we can go to God, we can go to the source of knowledge and receive personal revelation.
Great answer. Great answer, Ben and Charlie. Okay. I'm bi. I'm newly out to my mom. She thinks if I can happily be with a man, why not choose that route? Because that's what God wants. Help. What do I say?
Help this person, Charlie.
That's really hard. That would be really hard, and I'm sure a ton of people are in that position. And I always want to give grace to the person who just really doesn't get it. One thing that someone said to me early on in my journey was, please don't confuse ignorance with malice. And that was really helpful for me, because sometimes ignorance, like truly not knowing, feels pretty bad. It feels really attacking. The first thing was, if you can muster it, try to have grace with your parent, because it sounds like there's some things that they don't really understand. And I am not bi. I am like a perfect 6 on the Kinsey scale. I have never been attracted to the opposite sex. But I also know that I couldn't really choose who I fell in love with. Like, in the same way you don't choose who you're oriented towards. You don't just be like, that's the person I'm gonna marry, and now we have chemistry, and that's what's gonna work. And I imagine being bisexual, like, romance is still the same kind of like, you know, and you know, maybe like nicely ask your mom, like, well, how did you fall in love with dad? And why him instead of like the other dude that your mom wanted you to marry? Like, why couldn't you just pick to do what she wanted, and in a nice way, right? But that's just kind of what I'm thinking, explaining that, like, anyway, I actually have a ton of empathy for my bisexual friends, because I just think it would be really hard to, like, there's just that added layer of complexity, and Ben's gonna finish the answer.
You know, one of the things I hear in this question, if someone's like, well, if you're bi, just marry an opposite sex partner, you know, there's an inherent judgment there that being straight is better, and that being in a heterosexual relationship is better. And when you live in a world like we do, where it's quote unquote better to be straight and to be in a straight relationship, that's just really hard. And so I'm not saying that you can change your mom's mind. Was it a mom or a parent? Yeah, a mom. But I just want to like acknowledge that it's hard to live in a world where it is so obvious that we value straightness over queerness. And that's just hard. And that's not a perspective that you can change in your mom. I just want to acknowledge that that's a difficult thing. And you know, as I think most of us in this room know, it's hard to find a life partner. You know, it's difficult, and people often find a life partner, and then they decide that person isn't the right life partner for them. So this is a hard thing. So when someone finds someone they want to be with, I'm just so happy for them.
You know, as a parent, just thinking about this, you know, you said not from malice. More than likely, this mom is not talking from malice, but it also, I find in the parent sphere that it can be from fear. And like, I want my child to fit in and not have a hard life and all of those things. And so it's complex, but also I think I have great hope for this mom that she can learn as her daughter, you know, shares more and more of her experience with her. Okay, I'm looking at you and I'm like, oh, me.
You're next, Liz.
Ooh, I like this. Will Charlie do a backflip? Do you have enough gas?
Okay, my turn.
Not me.
Liz, so help me if you pull that one out again. If it gets slow, just give her a wink.
Okay, this is a long one, so settle in. My kid came out as trans during a challenging time in our family's life, and at puberty onset, and during the pandemic, and a cross-country move, and when their best friend came out as trans. I'm okay if it's real or authentic, but I am skeptical because of all the extenuating circumstances. I want to support and love, I am, but not make them feel pigeonholed if it's not real, I'm assuming.
You know, this is a really good question that I think a lot of parents have, which is, you know, how much do I trust my kid? And I think the answer is we trust them completely. And you know, that fear there of the kid being pigeonholed, you know, that makes so much sense to me. And yet think about what you liked and what you were like when you were 12, 14, 16, and how much you've changed now. So when I was 13 or 14, I was obsessed with Disney World, which I know isn't that different now.
Wait.
But the only thing I wanted to do was move to this
Now
town.
he's obsessed with Disneyland.
But like my dream was to be an Imagineer for Disney and like design rides and live in the town they built called Celebration. And that was like all I wanted to do was like move to Disney World. And I was pigeonholed in that like my room was filled with Disney World stuff and it was all I talked about. I read books about it. And you know what? That is still something that matters to me, that is a hobby of mine. But my room is not filled with Disney stuff anymore. And you know, the kid who's goth when he's 14, is that still a thing? Are kids still goth? I don't even know. You know, they might not be when they're 18, you know, and they might have something that matters to them when they're younger that they grow out of. And so if they have an understanding of their gender that changes over time, you know, good for them. Like that is a natural part of growth. I think the most important thing that this parent can do is to trust their kid and keep open dialogue. And so if later on that kid decides, you know what, I thought I was trans, and I wanted to fit in with my trans friend, and so I said I was trans, but I'm actually not, you know, that's okay. But if we tell that kid, I don't believe you, I don't trust you, and we don't have dialogue about it, then that's going to hurt the relationship, which in the long run will hurt the kid more.
Great answer.
Liz, what would you say as a parent?
Well, I would say, first of all,
And remember to hold up.
oh yeah, sorry. First of all, 5 years ago, right? Pandemic's 5 years ago. So, you know, probably proof's in the pudding a little bit there. That's 5 years of being able to watch and see them grow. But I just think listening to our kids and keeping, like Ben said, keeping the communication open, whether they are trans or they aren't, you will have the ability to have a relationship and be there to support and love them. And that, even though that may feel scary or different or super complicated, the relationship is where the importance is. We want our relationship with, I want a relationship with God, and how I have that relationship is because they are always there for me to listen and to be there for me. I just don't struggle to know that. They don't fix everything. They don't magically make everything easier, but I work on that relationship. And if I didn't have that with my parent, that would be really hard. And so I think that's probably the most important thing. Okay.
May I just have one more thing? Sorry, me again. So Charlie and I are both social workers, and we work as therapists. And one of the main principles that we follow as therapists is called self-determination. Like we let our clients self-determine, like what are they going to do going forward? What are their goals? And in the gospel, we call that agency. And so trusting our kids and trusting the people in our lives can feel difficult and feel scary. And yet when people have agency, when they have the ability to choose, they might choose things that are uncomfortable for us or that we might not choose for them. And that's okay because like you said, Liz, that's what our heavenly parents do for us. They allow us to have agency, they allow us to make mistakes and learn and grow, and they're with us every step of the way so that we can move forward.
Great.
I also have a thought on that. I don't know quite what it is yet, but I really like what both of you said. I'm just thinking too about like, it does sound like a lot happened that year. And that sounds like a really hard year for the whole family, for the whole world, right? But like, if anything, it is scary. And I don't even have kids. I can't imagine how hard it would be to be a parent and just have to know everything about everything because my kid might need that knowledge. That's hard. But if you can be the kind of person who sticks with your kid and they become someone who's confident, someone who is like independent, but not in a way that they don't need people, but like they don't self-abandon. They stick to themselves, then they will stick to themselves. So it's, I guess, just another way of what you're saying, but if you can provide a loving environment that's healthy for your child, they're not going to make like life-altering, damning decisions that can never be repaired. And whatever their life path ends up being, if you can provide the space, then you'll know because that's the path they'll choose.
Love that. Okay, next question. This says, it's for Ben. How do you feel about your patriarchal blessing?
Well, it's kind of short. I wish it were a little longer. But the truth is, I really love my patriarchal blessing. I'm not sure quite what this question was getting at, like what parts they want to know, but like my patriarchal blessing does not say I'm gonna marry a woman. So I don't have to like wrestle with like that incongruence in my life. But mostly I found my patriarchal blessing to be a really good catalyst for revelation. And it's been a guide in my life. I review it regularly. And so to me, it's really important and I honestly treasure it. And it mostly just praises my parents a lot, which is accurate. But it's great, so I love it.
All right. This weekend has been, we've only been one day, we still have another day, but this weekend has been so helpful, but also incredibly heavy. How do you stay positive and hopeful when things are so hard?
One of the things that helps me to stay hopeful is just being with good people, like being with people that I love. Last night, I stopped by the Sorensen's house to drop off a cooler that Luke had forgotten to take home. And when I left, I was just so happy. And we only talked for 20 minutes. And having people in your life that are good and positive helps me feel hopeful, because there are good people in this world. And so one of the things I try to do is just spend my time with people who uplift me and make me feel good. And when someone does that, I try and tell them. So I texted the Sorensens after. I was like, hey, so good to see you guys last night. It always makes me happy to see you, because it really does. And so not only receiving goodness from people, but also then telling them when they've done something good for me. That's one of the ways that I stay positive. Another thing I do is I really look to the scriptures for inspiration and revelation. I had this question that was bothering me that seemed so clear, and someone had asked me for a favor, and I was like, I don't want to do that favor. And so I was going to text them hey, sorry, I won't be able to do that. But every time I was going to do that, I just couldn't text it to them. And so I was like, you know what? The Book of Mormon has the answer to this. So I pulled out my Book of Mormon and said a prayer. And within 2 seconds, just do the thing. I was like, okay, I'll do the thing. And so that is one of the ways that I feel hope, is trying to connect with God every day and feeling God's love and God's presence every day. And one of the ways I do that is through the scriptures, but whatever you do to feel God's love, I would say try and feel that every day.
The year after I graduated with my undergrad from BYU was probably the hardest year of my life. There was just so much I was trying to figure out, and it was difficult. I was in a new city, new place, new job, new friends, started dating for the first time. It was like a whirlwind. And one time I was just on a plane, and I just wrote a list of all the things that have made me the most happy. The people that make me feel giddy and give me that Sorensen feeling, and the things that I was doing when I was the most happy in my life. And I just found themes, and I still have that list. And so sometimes when it's hard, one of them was literally listening to Kelly Clarkson's Breakaway album. And because my mom bought it for me at a garage sale in 3rd grade, and it became the soundtrack to my childhood. And I love her, who doesn't love Kelly? And so now it's funny, because sometimes I'll be really upset, or I'll feel really low, or somebody will just be really awful to me. And I'm just I'm so mad. And then it's you should listen to Kelly Clarkson. I'm no, it's not gonna work. And then I'm and break away. It just changes everything. And so I think I really treasure that list, and I would actually invite everybody to do that. Just take 5 minutes to think, when I was the happiest, who was I with? What was I doing? For me, it's hiking, it's dancing, it's flips, it's Kelly Clarkson, it's Taylor Swift, it's my sister, it's my friend Molly. And it's just those people. And then you're feeling low, insert Kelly. You can make up your life. It's really cool. You can shuffle it around. So shuffle it the way that makes you happy.
What do you do, Liz? How do you feel hopeful and stay hopeful?
That is an excellent question. You know what? This is a really silly answer, but we had our first grandchild this year, and seriously, when the days are hard, and there's been some hard days, my mom is dealing with Alzheimer's. Ben and I know I know a little bit more about Ben's experience now. And so there's been a lot of heavy things, but this little grandbaby, I get a picture or a FaceTime call, and it just fills my heart with, I was listening to Elder Snow talk about his granddaughters in the parent breakout session. And he was just saying, there's just something about grandkids, and these are adult grandkids, and it just made me excited to watch that happen. I don't know if we'll have more grandkids, but all I know is that is one of the things that just lifts me up.
I love that. And we've all talked about people, like connections,
absolutely.
bring us hope. May I quote a scripture? Is that too cheesy? I quote this a lot. I quote this a lot. It's my favorite scripture. It's Doctrine and Covenants, section 123, verse 17, where Joseph Smith says, "Dearly beloved brethren and sisters, let us cheerfully do all things that lie in our power, and then may we stand still with the utmost assurance to see the salvation of God and for his arm to be revealed." So if you're feeling hopeless, what can you do? Like, what can you cheerfully do? And often when I'm feeling hopeless, there's something I need to do. And in my old office at BYU, every time something like annoying LGBTQIs that happened at BYU, I would put a new rainbow thing in my office, and that made me feel just a little bit better.
I love a little defiant Ben. That's nice. Okay.
And they're so pretty.
They are, right. Okay, what's your best advice to other parents?
Well, as a parent, let me answer this. Now, we have a parent right here, Liz. What's your best advice for parents?
I was just talking to one of my sons the other day, and I might get emotional. He said, "I just really appreciate, Mom, that you and Dad have just been our biggest cheerleaders, and you have provided us a space to just be who we are. We can, fail. We can say things that weren't things that you had expectations of when you were, 25-year-olds getting ready to have children. He just really appreciated that we just treasure them without lots of expectations. And they're awesome kids, but those relationships, now of course the grandbaby can do no wrong, but the relationships with my kids are so just loving and enjoying and trusting and finding the good there is so important."
Liz, how would your kids say that you've loved them and supported them?
That's a good question. I'm just always there, probably. Whether it's an ugly time, whether it's an ugly cry, whether it's a high and I've just achieved this great thing, I feel like I'm always there for them. Yeah.
That's awesome.
I'm not perfect by any means, but.
Well, they're lucky to have you, Liz. I want to answer too, as a parent myself, just
Yes.
kidding. I have two wonderful parents. One of them's here, my dad's here. You want to stand up and give everyone a wave, Dad? He's hard to spot in his Ben's Dad shirt. I'll tell you one story that I think exemplifies how to be a good parent. So my older brothers were basketball superstars, and my dad took one of those old video cameras, a whole VHS fit in it, and he videotaped all of their basketball games, literally everyone. We have boxes of VHSs of basketball games. And a few years ago, my oldest brother, Justin, made a highlight reel of some of his, best moments. And in all of them, when he would make a basket, you could hear my mom in the background going, "Woohoo!" just, cheering for him. And so, if you want to be a good parent, be like my dad, be present at your kids' things, and be like my mom and cheer for your kids.
I love that. That's a great one. Love that, Ben. Okay, this one's for Charlie. How has your relationship with the church changed since you got married?
So leading up to my wedding, it was really scary. And there was just as much as everything is up in the air, it was even up in the air more, because I felt like I was kind of crossing into really unknown territory for kind of this space in some ways, but also mostly for myself. I was I don't know what's gonna happen. And it was scary too to move into, a new ward. There was just so much I didn't know what was gonna happen policy-wise and socially, and because I had, written books with Deseret Book, I was I don't know what's gonna happen, and I don't wanna be controversial, but I have to follow my heart, and this is just where my path is taking me. And there was a lot of tension there, and I prayed so much, and I cried so much, and I was just waiting for it all to just drop. And it's scary when you make a choice that can take you away from so many things you love, and you don't get to control what gets taken away and what doesn't. And so since getting married, I would actually say that my relationship with the church has improved a lot. because there's a little bit more stability there. It's less like what if, it's less anxiety, and it's more like, okay, here's what actually happened. What can I do to deal with this? And that's actually been a really big blessing, because then I can just focus on what's real instead of what might happen. And y'all know that the brain brings the worst case scenario and just runs with it. And so it's been really nice to be practical about what worship looks like. It definitely, things are challenging. But it was interesting to notice that as that kind of anxiety peeled back, some of like my frustration peeled back as it just like receded. It was like the waves, like these big waves that were coming in just kind of calmed. And I think some of that was me making my own decisions and trusting them and be like, you know what, this is where I felt led and this is where I'm staying. And then because I was feeling congruent inside and following through with it, it just kind of, it became easier. I don't know, less. Does that make sense? Do you have any thoughts on that? Well, Ben said I haven't gotten married. But yeah, it's nice. And I just think it reminded me that like focusing on what you can control and just being realistic about what the space is right now and making a decision, that was super helpful for me.
I will say I was there, and if you haven't attended a wedding between a gay couple, it is just as beautiful as any wedding that you've been to with a straight couple. Maybe more so, I will say that my husband was bawling his eyes out because their expressions of love that Charlie and Ryan offered to each other were just lovely and so heartwarming. And also we were feeling thoughts of like, we would just love for our son to be able to find a partner that had those same kind of feelings. And so I was so glad to be a part of that, and I'm so happy for you two to be experiencing the journey of marriage, because it's not easy, it's a lot of work, but it's also great to have a partner.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay, lighter note. Lighter note, this one's for Ben. Who's your celebrity crush?
Local celebrity, Charlie Bird. Real celebrity, James Marsden. I think I've had a crush on him since I was like 12. James Marsden was in this terrible show on ABC when I was a kid called Second Noah, about this family that had adopted a bunch of kids and they had a zoo or something, and he was attractive in it. And then he was like the prince in Enchanted. He was on my favorite show, 30 Rock. He's in X-Men. I think he's Cyclops. Is that his name? Anyway, James Marsden has always been the man of my dreams.
All right.
Oh, and when I was in my straight phase, I would say it was Anne Hathaway. I always said Anne Hathaway. Because, I mean, she's beautiful. And had I been 10 years younger, I would have said Emma Watson.
Oh, yeah. Excellent taste, Ben. Okay. My husband and I host gatherings in our home. Do you have any ideas on how to get the word out to individuals who might benefit? Our stake doesn't want us to announce it through church outlets.
I love this question. So first of all, gatherings are independently run groups in someone's home. They're kind of like an LGBTQ Come Follow Me study group. And we have a curriculum that's written by Claire Dalton and Austin Peterson. It's on the Gather website. And it just has 3 parts. So like there's a story of faith about an LGBTQ person or an ally. There are scriptures to focus on, but then there's also just like a tell your story section. So where you can just like, people can just like sit around and share personal experiences. So you can do all of that or none of it or some of it, and it's kind of like a choose your own adventure to like build community in your own home. I think the best way to get the word out is just like, when someone's like, hey, what's going on in your life? Just tell them what you're doing. This is a different kind of story, but when I was 22, I had an internship in Bolivia for the summer, and I had randomly like met my neighbor in the apartment building I lived in. We talked just a handful of times, and so we were just like small talking. He's like, so what are you doing this weekend? I was like, well, I'm going to church tomorrow. And then my missionary brain clicked in. I was like, do you want to come? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, well, it's at 9 a.m. and it's a 15-minute walk, so we're leaving at 8:45. And he was like, great. And I was like, okay. And having served my mission in Mexico, I'd invited many Latinos to church before, and they all said they were going to come, and then most of them didn't. And so when I knocked on his door at E43 and he was ready, I was like, what? And then he came to church and got baptized a few weeks later. But the reason I share that story is because I baptized more people that one day than I did in my whole mission. But because, just tell people what's going on in your life. And building community for LGBTQ Latter-day Saints is interesting and it's cool. So just organically talk about what you're doing when people ask. And it doesn't even have to be someone who's interested in it. And people will be confused. They're like, LGBTQ Latter-day Saints? That doesn't make any sense. And that can start a whole other conversation. So I would say just talk about what you're doing and invite people and see who comes. And what I have seen happen again and again and again with these gatherings groups is there will be someone who just starts one and then people will just come out of the woodwork who just need it. So if you are feeling any kind of prompting or stirring to start a group and start inviting people to come to your home to talk about the Savior and his love for his LGBTQ children, I would say do that, and miracles will happen.
Love it. Okay.
And post about it on social media, just invite everybody.
Yeah. So we do we don't do a gatherings thing, but we do, in Arizona, my husband and I host parent nights and other events, but we like to do it. The question was, how do our leaders don't want us to do it, how do we get the word out, through the church? And we do the parent nights on our own. We have invited our bishops and our stake presidency members and stake relief society president and all that, and they come, they attend, but we are the ones who do it, and so we don't need to, it's not like we're doing anything wrong, but we don't need to ask anybody's permission. And it's a really great opportunity for people to come and learn from, we have an LGBTQ person come and talk, and we visit and we eat, and it's a great connection for people to learn and to gather.
Yeah, and I've been to these parent nights at Liz's house as a parent myself, just kidding. And they're awesome. And almost every time there's someone who's there for the first time and they're like, my kid came out, what do I do? And there are all these veteran parents who are like, come, let us hug you. Yeah. Let's sit down and talk. Yeah. And it is beautiful to see those kinds of connections get made. And then a lot of people, will come for months and months and months while they're like, oh no, what do I do? And then sometimes they don't need it anymore and they stop coming. That's right. And people just hear about it organically, and it's so beautiful. And I love what you said, Liz, you don't need the church's permission to do good things. Nope. All you need to change the world is a lot of love in a living room, and you've got at least one of those things. and so just do something good in your home, and the Lord will be there.
Awesome. All right. Can you teach me a little more about being trans? I know trans people and love them, and I'm sincerely trying to understand.
I would ask that exact question to a transgender person. There's so much power in proximity. And you know what? Depending on what this person knows, maybe I could teach them. There's a lot that I've learned in the past 5 to 10 years about transgender experience, and I've been very blessed to be able to interact with some incredible trans individuals who have taught me about life, but also about their experience. And sometimes it's super similar to what I've been through, and sometimes it's totally different. But that proximity piece has been huge. And I know this can kind of be hard because especially, transgender people, the rates, statistically are lower. There's not as many. And a lot of times they're trying really hard to not be seen. But if you can open your heart and if you have a connection to someone, even if you're, so many people are scared or unsure, they don't want to say the wrong thing, just talk to someone, make them a person, because I think there's a lot to learn, and I would way rather it come from the source. I also think tomorrow there's a specific, there's two?
Two breakouts in the afternoon. There's one that is talking, we'll have trans, intersex, and non-binary people who will be telling a bit about their experience, and then the other one will be taught by Dr. Christine Coons, who is a trans woman and a doctor, and she's going to be talking about the medical parts of it all. She's fascinating. And so if you really want to learn more, then go and listen to these people talk about their experiences.
I think Charlie really hit the nail on the head that, none of us up here are trans, and so asking us about trans people, we can share a lot of our experiences and what we've learned, but really, the best way to go is to go to the source. Talk to trans people about their experiences, and there are a number of ways to do that at this conference. And Liz is a co-host on the podcast with Michael Soto, who's a dear friend of ours, also a trans man. And just was it last month you interviewed Landon Phillips? So an awesome trans friend of both Michael's and Liz's shared his experiences being trans. And so if you want to learn more about trans people, we've kind of busted our butts to provide resources and share stories so that people can learn. And that's the best way to learn. Always go to the source.
Great. We have another one coming up that we interviewed Bree Barrowman and Kit. And so they'll tell a little bit about their story at one of these next months. So, all right. I think this is our last question. And it starts out, I don't have a question. I just want to thank both of you. Your podcast has helped me so much as a mom of a gay daughter, just beginning to find herself. You are life.
That is so kind. I've gotten to meet a number of people who with like tears in their eyes thank me for the podcast. One of the things that I would say I'm proudest of in my life is that I feel like God has gotten to trust me in some ways, like to ask me to do things. And I've mentioned this story before, but the way the podcast started was in January 2020, I was on this panel at BYU called Reconciling Faith and Sexuality, and there were 3 of us on the panel, and I was the only LGBTQ person on this panel. And LGBTQ BYU students submitted questions, and then we talked about them, and we were in this auditorium. There were over 900 people there. It was packed, and the Daily Universe, BYU's newspaper, did an article about the event. And so one of my friends read the article and messaged me, and she said, Ben, I would love to go to these events, but I just can't because I'm a single mom. Like, I can never go to these events. She said, could you just do a podcast where you answer people's questions? And I was like, that's a fine idea for someone else. And then as I kept thinking, I was like, no, that's a really good idea, and maybe I could do it. And then I pulled Charlie in, and we're just trying to provide the resources that we wish we had. And I'm truly honored that inspiration came and that we could be a part of so many people's lives. The fact that so many people come up to me and say, like, Ben, we've never met, but you're my best friend. Like, that is just like so touching to me. Like, I heard that like 3 times today. And so it really is such an honor. And, I don't say this like flippantly, but like in a few generations, people are going to forget who we were. And like most of us are going to do things and we're going to be forgotten. But the fact that we're impacting people now really matters. And all of you are doing things that matter and that impact people's lives. And you will all get inspiration to do something that matters, whether it be for one person or whether it be for 1,000 people. And it's really cool when the Lord inspires us and we can do something that helps someone else. And so that thank you on that card just means the world to me, because working on this podcast and sharing stories and lifting people up and sharing our faith and testimonies has really been one of the highlights of my life.
As you were sharing that, Ben, I was just thinking, if any of you are looking for a resource that you can't find, maybe you're the one to create it. And like, I am so proud of what we've created here and how it's grown, but I mean, we're not checking off all the boxes, right? There's places that need to be discussed and community that needs to be built and resources that people in this room need that haven't been created yet, and maybe you're the person. Maybe part of the reason you're here, part of the way you can fulfill the measure of your sacred creation as a queer individual or the parent or friend or family member of a queer individual. Maybe that's kind of in your brain right now and it's scary and you think that's a great idea for someone else, but I just wanted to say that. Thank you again so much for being here this weekend, for spending your time and your resources and your energy and your hearts with us. It is such an honor to be involved with so many amazing people and to still get to do backflips on a stage in front of a crowd. I want to take like a group selfie, if that's okay. Is that all right? If you don't want to be in it, I want to be really like cautious. Like if you're not out or you're not feeling it, feel free to step out and I'll give you some time to do that. But can I use your phone, Ryan? We're gonna get a nice picture, and then, like I said, we have merch and books in the back if you want to buy them. And I think we're happy to sign books, and we'll probably just stay up here because it'd be easier if there's like a line. So grab a pin, grab a hat, and then come talk to us. And thank you so much for being here.